It's just been so good lately. Can't even describe it. It's been phenomenal. Um, so, trying to get my Facebook up and running so that we can see who is gracing us with their presence. Okay, please say good morning if I don't see you on here. Yes, it's a little bit earlier today. Been feeling phenomenal because of Kundalini. So doing the Kundalini practice every morning has really helped me to just sort of breathe and come into myself. So super excited about that. And I don't know if it's freezing on your side, but I apologize. Technology has been wonky, so whatever. I'm sorry. Good morning. Who's on here? Can you tell me who's on here? You want to tell me? Let's see if it's this. Super excited about that. And I don't know if it's freezing. Okay, so let's get started with the book. Oh, by the way, super excited. I've finished my first semester of my graduate program. Uh, Actually, I'll be finished today. I have a one paper to write, and so I'm just doing the little tying in the ends and stuff to get it going. But super excited about that, and I've learned a lot, and I feel like I have a lot to share in terms of knowledge and wisdom that I've learned throughout the course. And of course, as I continue to go on, I will share because the program itself literally speaks to my soul. I mean, I feel like this program was made specifically for me, which is awesome. And part of what I said we were going through was emotional intelligence and understanding the real understanding of emotional intelligence, the affects, and how it impacts our brains, how understanding how the emotions play a role, and how the different affects sort of give rise to emotional states of being. And so that for me is pretty phenomenal. And I think that because of that, so we working through the dark emotions, I think was the most critical point in the course. And I believe that that's why I am connected with you guys to what it would look like to get through the dark emotions, specifically because we're going through the dark night of the soul, which is a cosmic craziness. As you guys know, we're going through some craziness right now. So if we can get through it, that would be awesome together. Okay, so I'm going to continue reading. We're in the introduction of this particular book, okay? So let's see. Part one of of this is emotional phobia. Looks at how emotional alchemy. Who is that? You just threw me a thumbs up. I didn't see your face, so I don't know who it is. Say good morning if I don't see you, please. Facebook's not showing me who's on here for some reason. Okay, part one, emotional phobia, looks at how emotional alchemy is obstructed by our culture-wide fear of dark emotions. It is listening to emotional pain that initiates us into emotional alchemy process. To listen well, we must become comfortable with our vulnerability, a challenge for any of us. The primary obstacle to this culturally conditioned fear of emotion itself, chapter 3, when we compulsively and chronically disconnect from our dark emotions, disavowed dark emotional energy can become stuck in the body, producing toxic emotional states such as depression, anxiety, and psychic numbing, as well as addiction and psychosomatic elements. It also runs amok in the favor of explosive anger and violence. And that's the big piece, is the violence and the anger that shows up, right? That's how we end up with war and people fighting and beating each other up and the craziness, right? Praise God. Hello. Hi. Yes, praise God. Good morning. Love that. Part two, emotional alchemy, is the heart of the book. Chapter 4 introduces the process both conceptually and pragmatically. Chapter 5 through 7 focus on alchemy of grief, despair, fear, respectively. These chapters start with a description of the texture or the feel of each emotion in its social context And then we move to the revisioning its values and power. The alchemy process is explored both discursively and narratively. Discursively. I don't think I've ever read that word before. I don't know what that means, but if y'all want to put the definition, that'd be great. So looked at from a wider angle of vision, grief, despair, and fear are they connected to a larger world context. Each of these characters, or I'm sorry, I can't read apparently this morning. Each of these chapters concludes with emotional exercise designed to initiate you into the alchemy of grief, despair, and fear. Part 3 is emotional ecology. Enlarges the flame of reference, moving the focus from individual journey of healing to the larger social and global context of dark emotions in our time. In the dominant paradigm of psychiatry and psychology, emotions are seen as events that occur within a boundaried, separate ego. It's all in your head, fundamentally rooted in the nuclear family of the past. In contrast to this kind of psychology, I emphasize the emotional ecology of grief, despair, and fear, looking at these emotions, how these emotions are situated in the larger system, extending beyond the nuclear family to our society and the world as a whole. Now, this is important because the ability to see that our emotional states can have an impact on the entire whole, right? That's where systems start to come into place, and then we start to play out this reality as though it's real. And that's sort of what I've been getting at. And I've been trying to find a better way to communicate sort of these principles and practices that I've talked about in the past. From a different context, from a context where people, good morning, Roberto, people are able to understand, right, basically how to utilize and understand how the dark emotions themselves surface into the reality of our time space, meaning that we start to construct societies around these particular ideas. It shows up somewhere. And some of the dark emotions will get hidden from view, and so that we don't even know that they're there sometimes. And then there's like these underground things that are happening, things like the dark web, things that other people don't understand. So we need to understand how this is impacting the bigger whole, and it starts with you. If we can't tell a new story, and it's going to go into what a story is, if we can't reprogram ourselves to see a different reality, or to understand that reality is based upon the very fabric of our thoughts and the way that we shape the world around us, right? That if we can't understand that we're creating the reality, the problems that are existing today, then there's no hope, because we're going to continue to create the same things over and over and over and over again. So it starts with you. First, internally looking at the self and the dark emotions and why you're so afraid of them, and understanding how to alchemize it. Spiritual alchemy, right? That's what I call myself, a spiritual alchemist. What does that mean? Okay, it means that I use everything that's available to me, that I don't discredit anything, that everything that is around us has the ability to be transmuted and transformed into something beautiful. Even the dirt and the murk. And I've talked about the lotus flower over and over and over again. I mean, that's a huge symbol in various religious practices. We look at the lotus because we know that from the darkness arises this beautiful flower. But without the darkness, would the flower arise? So do we need both? I mean, we can look at it from Dr. Strange's point of view, right? His master, the master, grandmaster, whatever she's called, she literally pulls from the dark to illuminate the light. So she transmutes the energy. That's really a depiction of what spiritual alchemy is. You can't get to self-mastery without doing that. It's not possible. Denying that these emotions exist is not enlightenment. That's just denial. Oh, okay. Yeah, kill. Okay, so we're going to go through the book, and the book gives us a sort of a framework of how to deal with these things, right? Okay, and how they show up in civilization in larger scopes, right? The internal to the external. This part of the book invites you to look at the pain of the world and see how your dark emotions are connected to the global currents. It is meant to nourish you, to build the necessary emotional fitness and compassion to which we are called by a world in crisis. Well, the exercise at the end of the chapter 5 through 7 are specific to grief, despair, and fear. The 33 emotional exercises of part of 4 comprise a home course in emotional alchemy and are general enough to include any challenging emotional state, including anger, anxiety, depression, shame, envy, and self-pity. Shame is a huge one. We were talking about shame. So yesterday I closed out my emotional intelligence class, and I will be having special guests, hopefully for my class on my Podbean, to talk about, their experiences. Everybody deals with emotional anguish and pain in different ways. Everybody has their own perspective about it, and I think it's critical to have different worldviews or different points of view on what is emotional intelligence to them. What does it mean to befriend a dark emotion or go through the alchemic process of spiritual alchemy or alchemy in general, okay? And so there are exercises in this book. So if you want to purchase this book, it'd be awesome, right? Because then you'll have a toolkit, something in your toolkit. Doesn't mean it's the end-all be-all. Remember, nothing's the end-all be-all. It's a journey we're on. We're on a journey, and the journey allows for new things to arise and practice and try. Some things work, some things don't. Things that don't work, throw them out. Things that work, continue. Okay, or don't, up to you. As a complete program, these exercises would be useful as well as if you were in recovery from addiction, or if you're emotionally numb and want to recover your capacity to feel. The exercises here can be done at any point in your reading, in conjunction with the rest of the book or independently of it. I hope this systematic presentation of the emotional alchemy process will be useful when you need it most. So the good thing about this book is that you can actually go through the process of the book, and you don't have to necessarily read the book, although I think it'd be important to read the book. But if you don't, you can at least go through the alchemic process of the dark emotions and what it might mean for you, okay? So telling stories. I love the idea of the stories, and I'm going to tell you that in part of my class, right, we talked about the stories, and we talked about myth stories and how stories come to be, and the stories that we create and design and construct, and how the stories are getting played out in this world, right, this dynamic. And so stories are critical. In fact, they're so critical that if you look back in ancient time and you look at older cultures, they had storytellers. Like, I was born in the Southwest, okay? And we have tribes, right? We have a bunch of indigenous cultures and people. And in some of the cultures, they have the storyteller. And the storyteller, the one that is depicted in the stories here is this older person. It'd be a grandmother or a father, and the kids are all surrounded by this storyteller. There's a bunch of kids just sitting around, and that's how tradition was passed on, was story. And the stories that we create, well, where did they come from, right? So if we've designed and constructed a story about what reality is, and that's what we've done, we've created a storyline based on the way that we view and perceive the world. Well, who gets to create those stories? And why is it other stories more important than others? And how come some stories are being told and other stories are not being told? Okay, this right now is called, that's basically what a paradigm or worldview is. It's the construction of, or the engagement of, and then the construction of how we view the world around us. And we do this through symbols, right? So words themselves are a construct of trying to communicate or express the way that we view reality. That's what it's about. When we talk about words, right, or spelling, right, or speaking, that these things that we're speaking into existence are the very stories that we create. This is huge because we create stories that are sometimes hindering our growth, stopping us from growing, or we're creating stories that are helping us to grow and magnify. So understand the story that you're creating. This takes practice to look at what narrative am I giving myself? What narrative do I want to be in? Because the narrative that you're in is going to be the reality that you're seeing. If your narrative is life sucks, then everything that you see around you is going to suck. If your narrative is life is beautiful, everything around you is going to be beautiful. Now, here's the deal. You're going to say, well, yeah, but what about the times when we're not? Everything's not beautiful and it's hurting. We would seek to find the beauty in that. The way I see the world, right? I'm very optimistic and kind of like that. I'm an opportunist, but I'm optimistic and see the world as beautiful. And even finding beauty in the dark emotions. I find beauty in it. Where does the beauty exist? But if everything in my world was ugly and disgusting, then even love and all the joy would be disgusting and awful. We construct the story of our life. What is your story? What is your narrative? What are you basing it on? Is it serving you? Is it helping you to grow, right, in your divine birthright? Is it helping you grow into purpose? Is it helping you grow into the skin that you want to be in? Or is it stopping you from doing that? So those are the questions that you can ask yourself. What is it doing? Helping you to grow, right, in your divine birth. Okay, so it looks like the video on Facebook is slow. It's either the audio or the video. Oh my god, it can't match up, can it? Come on, Camlink. Start working. At least you guys can hear me clearly. That's the important piece. So, again, using the dark emotions, understanding how it impacts our personal life and life as a whole in society, understanding the stories that we create based on the engagement of our experiences or understanding of the inanimate objects, because we're looking at things around us that we've created as though that is reality. Well, we've only created that particular piece of reality. Doesn't make it real. For instance, this internet, we've created that. It's inanimate. If people, so think about it this way. Is it real? Sure. Is it here? Yeah. Does it matter? I don't know. If we literally stopped, let's say all people disappeared, who would have the need for technology? It's definitely not the birds. Definitely not the animals. We're the only ones who care about technology. Humans do. But the mere existence of it doesn't make it real. It just means that it's here because we've created it and we believe it to be real. If we took it all away and it all went away, then whatever arose next would be the reality that we are experiencing. Doesn't mean it's real, just means that it's there. It just is, right? And to understand that is, I mean, the concept of it is kind of crazy, but technology itself, well, it's here. Of course it's here. Does it make it right? No. Does it make it wrong? No. It just is. But the necessity and need for technology is only utilized by the human species. If technology were to dissipate and we weren't here to maintain the technological advances, then it would just go away. There wouldn't be like this baton that we hand on to the, birds or to the monkeys, which would be next in line. We'd be like, hey, monkeys, so here's technology and here's how you're going to use it. They're like, eat it, or they're going to use it to pound something, or whatever they're going to do. They're like, I don't care about that. We've created that particular reality. Does it make it realer than just living off the earth and the planet? No, doesn't. But we get so attached, right? We're so attached, and in a lot of people's minds, we're the top of the animal kingdom. That's such an egocentric way to look at life. It's caused a lot of craziness. But we ourselves, right, are participating in the entire experience, or the unfolding of this cosmic stuff. I don't even know what else to say. It's just stuff. It's a bunch of just stuff. It's kind of like how I see it, when I was young, and I'll close with this because it's kind of funny. I mean, it brings it to a simpler way of understanding, is that my mom, so Christmas is coming, but she always says, well, what do you want for Christmas? And I never understood this question, because I'm like, I don't really want anything. Like, what do I want? I don't need anything. Like, I never felt like I was without. I had clothes, I had food, I had shelter. I didn't really understand the question when I was young, because I didn't want anything. Like, I just like to spend time. I guess I want time with people. But materialistic, materialism wasn't my thing. It wasn't about that. I love nature. I love, being out in, but consumerism, I should say, more than materialism. Consumerism wasn't really my thing. Like, I didn't care about clothes. I didn't care about all these things. And so that question just kind of like, what do I want? Well, I'm good. I don't really think I want anything. I just wanted, I guess, happiness, joy. I want to experience everything this world has to offer, and more. But so the reality wasn't grounded in materialism, right? It wasn't that. I understood that things are things, and it's just stuff. And that, people get very attached to their stuff. There's nothing wrong with being attached to stuff. That's not what I'm saying. It's just that sometimes being attached to stuff can really, really, really hurt you. It harms you rather than helps you. Attachment, right? Some of the Buddhist principles, right, talk about that. But stuff is stuff. And the stuff that we're viewing or witnessing or seeing, we've become so attached to that's the reality. But is that really the reality? There's a whole world going on that we don't even understand, like quantum physics. Or, I don't know, right now in a jungle somewhere, things are happening, bugs are doing things we don't know. There's all these intricacies that we have no idea about, but yet we can only see within the scope of what we've created and think that that's truly reality. Right? Technology must be reality. No, it was created, and its only function is to support humans. I mean, you could say it's supporting the planet, I guess, but I don't know, I might beg to differ for that. I just know that if humans weren't here, technology wouldn't be. It would be organic, right? Everything would be organic and sort of unfolding in itself. So we ourselves have created these inanimate objects that are supposed to support our reality, but it doesn't make it real. It just means that it's there to function for something. But when we go away, it's not going to be self-sustaining. We're not, like, for instance, I keep looking at this. This is of course, a napkin holder. This napkin holder, we think is real. It's reality, right? No, we've constructed it, and it's here, and it feels real. But if I and all humanity were to dissipate, and all we're left were animals, the animals are not going to be putting paper towels on the paper towel rack. So if we start to look at life from that perspective, it's like, is it real? Well, it's here. It seems real, but it's really just a construct, right? It's something that we've molded out of what we felt was reality for us. And we've created this reality. We've created this simulation that we live in. Good job. Oh, hey, AJ. Sorry, I didn't see all these things coming in. Good morning, everybody on here. Flag Boy. I don't know if you guys are still on here. Looks like people are jumping on and off. Good morning, PBG. And anybody else who's on the Podbean, MR, MHR. So, kind of funny, but, you know, it kind of puts things into perspective, right, when we think about it. So, sometimes we take life so serious, but sometimes we can step back and kind of look at the comedy behind our reality that we've constructed, right? It's kind of comical, and sometimes it's like technology is really good. I love technology, obviously. I'm using it because it supports in that social connection, or feels like, you know, it's a different way to socially connect, but it's an opportunity to connect, get your voice out there, to make a difference or leave something in the world, right? A legacy. But when we start to peel back the layers of what's really happening, it's kind of funny and comical to think like only humans use technology, and if we disappeared, there would be no use for it. The planet itself would be self-sustaining, right? Technology is not self-sustaining. We have to maintenance and maintain it to exist. So, does it make it real? I don't know. Good questions, right? It's like philosophical stuff, right? So, but we've created it. We've created it into what we feel is reality. So there you have it. So as we start to unpack, I know I was like emotional intelligence, and then it goes into this whole other storytelling and all this other stuff. But there you have it. And super excited that I ended my first semester. I'm very excited to have people come on here as guests. So hopefully some of the students from my class will be willing to be vulnerable and open and join us, okay? So I love you guys. Have a fantastic, fun, funky, freaky, phenomenal, fabulous Friday. And of course, I will be seeing you guys on Monday. Yay!